Hello, my name is Mr. Furber and I am in charge of the teaching of Latin across all of Future Academy's secondary schools. You might be wondering what Latin is, especially given that it's a subject which isn't taught at all that many secondary schools at all. So let's look at that first. So Latin is the study of the language of the ancient Romans who lived 2,000 years ago. It's what's known as a dead language, meaning there's no native speakers. There's a sort of quite a negative reception of that word, I suppose, dead. But people think, well, why on earth would I study that subject? Well, let's have a look at that. So there's three main reasons why we teach Latin. And the first one is to do with literacy, the second one is to do with aspirations, and the third one is what I call the real reason. So in terms of literacy, 60% of English words come from Latin. At modern foreign languages, so French and Spanish and beyond, 80% of the words of those languages come from Latin. The theory then runs that the more Latin you learn, the more English you learn. I've written a bespoke course for Future Academies, which you can see behind me, in which once every short term I make explicit links to English words that you can learn from Latin words based on the sort of 20-odd words that you learn per short term. Also, moving on from vocabulary to grammar, the sort of Latin provides a kind of the grammatical skeleton which underpins all of those languages I've just mentioned. Where new grammatical features are taught, we make explicit links to the learning of grammar at Key Stage 2, but also our, again, bespoke grammar curriculum for English and also for modern foreign languages, where they learn grammar as well. Lastly, staying with literacy, it's also learning Latin is massively important for what's called cultural literacy. So we don't just look at language, we also look at what the Romans and also what the Greeks and loads of other cultures around that time were doing. And this includes things like Greco-Roman mythology, ancient history, and also ancient culture. And so this is valuable knowledge. It's really important that currently that students get to learn about these things. It will help inform their lives. It certainly hasn't helped inform mine. So that's literacy. Next up is to do with raising aspirations. It's a challenging course which I believe, which in fact I know every single student who learns it is able to make progress, is able to succeed at. That's because it's designed in a way such that there's loads of time for practice and loads of time for consolidation. But it certainly is not easy, and this sends the message out that Latin is a prestigious and challenging subject, and we take all students' learning seriously. It's an unpatronising course. The result of that message is that, in fact, Latin always gets the highest marks at GCSE. But I'm not really that bothered about exams, because it's about creating interested and interesting people. I think that's what teaching Latin does. This brings me on to, in fact, I've just told you the real reason, the third reason, which is, it's not to do, as I said, with exams. It's not to do with utility, with usefulness of the subject. The fact is that it's an incredible interdisciplinary subject. You look at language, you look at history, you look at myth and culture, you look at stories, you look at philosophy, you look at geography. There's all these different things put into one subject. And the learning of that is currently being denied to the vast majority of children in the country, whereas the talent is out there. And in fact, if we spread that message out there, then loads and loads of students can be interested in this subject. And that's why it's so important to me and to Future Academies, as opposed to a few kids getting some, well, obviously I care about the grades at GCSE, but I'm more interested in producing, as I said, interested and interesting people. I'm very much looking forward to, if you're a parent, very much looking forward to teaching your child or overseeing, maybe I'll actually teach them, your child next year if you are a student, and I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing you enjoy the course next year. Thank you very much for listening.